Hello and welcome to Icaria. We released a major update a while back, and I thought I'd cover some of the new features, including blueprints and the changes to build mode to support them, along with the new hotbar, sloped conveyors, and some new programming features for cranes that made them easier to use. I'll start with build mode. Build mode is a new selection mode which lets you mass edit your factory layout. If we select this building in normal mode, and if you've played the game before, this will be familiar, you get all the settings. You can set your recipe, you can set your request, you can set the role, you can set the team, and other settings for different buildings. In addition, you have access to all of the scripting panels. However, if I hit the B key and switch to build mode like this, we get a different set of options. We can copy, we can make a blueprint, we can deconstruct, and we can restore. And in build mode, you can select multiple entities like this. And then you can add and remove items to the selection with the shift key and click like so. And you can filter the selection like that. I click on the icon here and I filter just for conveyor belts and I can clear it here. And now I can take these and I can deconstruct them like this. I can select it again and I can restore them if I thought that was a mistake. I can select this like this and I can copy it. And then I can select these and I can use deconstruct to delete the ghosts. And finally, I can select like so, and I can make a blueprint. And when I make a blueprint, I can give it a name. I'll call this hammer mill. I can give it a description. I can set its icon like that, and I can set the background color like so. In addition, I have the option to share. And if we look up here, we're currently looking at local blueprints. However, if I click the share button, if we click over here, you can see here my shared blueprints. Shared blueprints are common between all saves. So if I come in here, click on this and click on share, it copies my blueprint to the shared section. Now I won't be able to see this in a save that hasn't unlocked hammer mills, but otherwise it'll be available in all of your saves. And finally, we come down here. The other option is to export like so. And this gives me a blueprint string, which I can copy it like so. And share with my friends. And then once I close this, I can import this down here, paste the string in and import, and I get another copy of my blueprint. You can also blueprint beacon layouts. And here I'm going to set up a simple tree harvesting operation. First, I create a beacon for the area where I am going to harvest trees for cut down trees like that. And I'm going to make it green because, you know, trees are green and all. And then I'm going to make a second beacon like this for where I'm going to plant seeds. And we give this the role plant. And I'm going to make it lime colored so it's slightly different. And finally, I'm going to set up 4 beacons for where we collect logs. And they're going to be offset from where we cut down trees because trees tend to fall outside the rectangle of where they're being cut. So I'll just take the trees beacon like that. And I'm going to go into build mode and copy it like so. And we're going to put one in the upper left-hand corner like so. I'm going to go edit the settings, make it orange, and we're going to set it to logs like so. And I'm going to set the terrain filter on this one so that it finds log piles. And now go back in build mode and I can make a copy of it and put it over here, and another copy and put it here, and the final copy down here like so. And now I have the full setup and I can just select the whole thing like this. Oh, one more thing I need to do before I do it is I need to set the filter on this to old trees. And now I can just select the whole rectangle like that and go into build mode and make a blueprint. Call it tree harvesting. Give it the icon of the old tree, which should be down in here somewhere, like that. And we'll make it green, like that. Now is a good time to introduce the hotbar. The hotbar is this set of 10 buttons at the bottom of the screen, each one assigned to one of the number keys on the keyboard. And I can assign anything from these 4 menus down into the hotbar. So I can assign buildings like so. I can assign local blueprints. I can assign shared blueprints, and I can assign roles. And this roles section lets me select entities, which we'll demo in a little bit here. So for the moment, though, I'm going to assign my new tree harvesting blueprint. And I'm going to go, there's a set of 10 separate rows, essentially 10 hotbars. And I can cycle through them with using these arrow keys. And I can also cycle through them by holding shift and using the scroll wheel. And I'm going to go to row 4, and I'm going to use this for tree harvesting. So what I'll do is I'll hover over this, and I'll hit the 1 key, and my blueprint moves down here. And now close this, and I can even exit blueprint. Hotbar still shows up. And I can take this, and I can say, put it here, like that, and I'll line up the logs beacons, and then I'll line up the logs beacons again. And I can even probably put some more up here, like that, and maybe one more up here. And that gives me pretty good coverage of everything in my forest here. I've got this set of 5 drones I'm going to use for harvesting trees. And I can select them using this roles panel. And the cool thing about using the roll panels is not only can I select them this way, but I can also assign them to the hotbar. So I've got one lime colored drone, which if we look in here is in the tree chopper role. So if I click here, I can select him. The way this works is if I select up here, I select all the lime colored drones. And if I select down here, I select all the lime colored tree choppers. And if I select over here, I select any tree chopper. In this case, I'm going to select the tree chopping drone, and I'm going to hit the 2 key. I'm going to hover over this and hit the 2 key, and I'm going to assign my tree chopper to the hotbar. And you see if I hover over it, it says tree chopper. And if I click on this button, I select him, and then I can tell him to start chopping trees. And now I'm going to set up my log collectors. I can do it much the same way. I'll assign my 4 log collectors like so to the 3 key. There we go. And I can select them like this and set them off to go collecting. And if I decide I want to clear one of these settings, I can just control click on it like so, and that clears the hotbar slot. Another new feature is slope conveyors. Here I've got a conveyor going down the hill from the storage that's collecting logs into my generator. Creating slope conveyors is pretty straightforward. You just drag them out and they conform to the slope. So here I can drag down the hill, and it comes to a stop when the drop is too large, and I can just start dragging around a little loop around here, and then come all the way down, and then if I want to, I can go back up the hill again. Next, I'm going to look at some new scripting features that are particularly useful for cranes. I'm going to set up this crane with a flattening script by first setting up a beacon like this, and we open up the scripting panel like that, and we see go to, and we go to our beacon, and then we put in a while. Well, we need to go to high points here like that. And if above, and then we will just use the height of the crane as a reference and put a dig in here like that and loop. And there we are, flattening the area inside the beacon. However, we can do a bit better than that now by replacing the reference to the beacon with the self tag. And here we go into the by type section, which is where all the special tags are, and we pick self. And now, instead of going to the highest point, and you can see it here as we zoom out a bit, the crane's now going to the highest point that it can reach as opposed to the highest point in the beacon. And similarly, I can replace the reference here with the self tag as well. And at that point, I no longer need the beacon. I can just delete it, and I can plunk down a crane and flatten all the area that it can reach. Another new feature is that the crane give and take commands can now respect requests. In this case, I'm using a crane to transfer items mined on this top deck down into a small storage. So what I do is I open up the scripting panel here, and I tell the crane to give. And rather than giving everything, what I do instead is I say give only requested items. And this makes the crane behave a lot like a conveyor belt. And then we'll just loop it like that. And at the moment it's failing. And the reason why is because the small storage doesn't have a request. So if I come in here and add a request for mudstone, then suddenly the crane starts transferring mudstone onto this conveyor belt. And I can do the same thing in the other direction. In this case, I want to take logs from the small storage here and send them to the generator in the back there. So I add a script to this crane. I put in a take command, and here comes the new feature. We go in and say my request, and it says only requested items, and loop it like so. And again, it's not taking anything because there's no request, but now the destination of the take command is the crane storage itself. So we need to add the request to the crane. And I can put a request here for logs on the crane. And now you'll see that it starts transferring logs from the small storage to the conveyor belt. Another change we've made is that drones now descend slowly rather than diving immediately whenever they go over an edge. This saves a bunch of time if you're going over just a short gap because you don't have to climb all the way back out on the other side. And finally, we've added achievements, including this copper drone, which you can build to get an achievement. And there's a steel version and a gold version, and 4 other achievements you get in other ways as well. So try out the new build or download the demo. Almost all the changes in this video are in the demo, so you can give them a go. And I'll see you in the next one.